Hello, this is Maureen Kwenda, your podcast host, and you are listening to the Empowerment Minutes podcast. It's a podcast to empower you with nuggets on learning and development, training, leadership, coaching, entrepreneurship, and personal growth. I am a learning leader, a researcher, speaker, coach, and consultant, and author of the book, Dream Big and Live Your Dreams Boldly. I'm also the CEO and founder of EMK Learning Solutions, LLC, and I've had the honor to work with instructional designers, trainers to become better leaders. So if you're an instructional designer, you're a trainer in the learning and development space, they're looking forward to leadership positions, I would really love to help you. All right, so it's exciting to be back on the show this week for another empowering episode. But before I get started, you know how it works. I always want to take a minute to say thank you so much. I really appreciate you being a fan of this podcast. You take the time every time to listen, to share, to comment, to send even private feedback to me. It really means a lot. And I want to say thank you so much. So the focus of today's episode is on leading with diversity and inclusion in mind. We all know what time of the day it is with diversity and inclusion. It's really such a hot topic in any industry, including learning and development. And leading at the forefront means taking steps to ensure that we are more inclusive, and than exclusive as leaders. So we want to be really inclusive. That's why DI is just so amazing. And so to get us started, let me introduce our special guest, Emmanuel Ecoma. So I would like to say thank you so much, Ecoma. Welcome to the show, Emmanuel. Thank you for accepting our invitation to be a guest on this show. It means a whole lot. So do you mind just telling us about yourself, like maybe what you do, and if you have a business, what's the name of your company, where you work? I'm sure our guests want to know much about you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for inviting me to be a part of this podcast. My name is Emmanuel Ecoma. I'm a professional speaker and a John Maxwell certified coach, trainer, and teacher. I am a co-founder of New Level Training. It's an online training company with a friend of mine in the Middle East. So we do online training, we do workshops, seminar, webinar. And over the past 15 years, I've worked as an English coach and helping business leaders and young leaders to grow their business and improve their leadership skills. So I do consulting as well. And I'm based in Budapest, Hungary. It's a beautiful country.
That's wonderful. I mean, that's one place I'd like to visit at some point in my life. It's on my bucket list. And thank you for leading the way as a leadership, coach and consultant with John Maxwell, like myself. So I'm so glad you're here, and I'm so glad we're part of the John Maxwell DNA, and we all have that in common, that we're really having the heart to add value to others. So thank you so much, Emmanuel. It means a whole lot to me.
Thank you.
Thank you. So now let's just talk about diversity, inclusion, and it's really not a walk in the park. People talk about it all the time, but when you think about it, it could be really something that is challenging for some organization who don't even understand why diversity is. They don't even understand the benefits, of diversity and inclusion.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, so a diverse workforce in terms of race, age, religion, nationality, sexual orientation, gender identity, and national origin brings diverse viewpoints and perspectives to companies or in the workplace. However, making diversity a priority is a different ballgame, and it's really important. But it's also important to create a culture where people from all backgrounds feel included. What are some strategies that, as a leader, even as a founder of your own company, that you can create and maintain and foster inclusivity in the workplace? As I believe, these are key to being diversity inclusive, right?
Yeah, that's right. So I think when it comes to diversity, the first thing that a leader should do is that in a company to educate your leaders, when it comes to creating and promoting an inclusive workplace. I think your biggest ally will be your leadership team, because if they don't buy into that idea, you wouldn't be able to promote diversity. And another thing that I strongly advise is that they should integrate inclusivity into their core values. It's really important to do that, and you stress it and not just talk about it. You try to implement it and involve the people that are in your organization. And I also advise model an inclusive language, because the language in your workplace should be a type that promotes inclusivity. You shouldn't use languages that will be harmful to other people. Try to use phrases that promotes that, because we live in a world that is so diverse, and our language should also represent that.
Absolutely. When I think about, even in terms of the field of instructional design, where sometimes I have the opportunity to design e-learning for some people, even when it comes to the visuals, when it comes to the characters, we have to be really, really mindful and thoughtful how diverse and inclusive we are. Even when it comes to the voiceover, people who are taking the training, does the voice sound like them? Even when it comes to the material that we're using for our leadership workshops, does it include, the culture of the people around that we're training and all of that? It's really, really, you made a valid point that it starts from the leadership, because that's where the change comes from, right? And you also mentioned that they have to be able to model it, right? Because people have to be able to practice what they preach. You can't ask people to do, to be more diverse and include diversity and inclusion when you're not modeling it and you're not part of the culture. So you definitely made, some valid points. The leadership has to drive the change, and they have to be the change the other people in the organization want to see. And then from there, then they can become leaders that people want to follow. And then they can, the change is going to start, it's going to create a snowball effect. And before you know it, it's going to be a contagious organization in terms of diversity and inclusion. Yeah, that's great. But when I think about it, those are great starting points. I'm thinking then, how can it be maintained or fostered, right? How can, in terms of sustainability, how is that sustainable?
Well, it is sustainable in the sense that you have to create a culture of trust, because people must be able to trust what you're doing. They have to feel included, like you're not just saying it and you're practicing it and you're showing it that this is important for this organization. We have to make people trust that we're representing them in all the decisions that we make. So that's how I feel about it. And we should also recognize and reward everyone's performance, giving very good feedback, and then, giving recognition to them, that you're doing a great job. I have worked with very diverse organizations in Budapest here. So I try to advise them to pay attention to the little things, like you talked about, the voiceover that you use, the photos, the pictures that you use, the images that you use for the slides that you're preparing for a presentation. It has to be inclusive. Everybody has to be well represented. So absolutely, we have to maintain that, and we have to create events and initiatives to focus on inclusivity. It has to be intentional. It has to be. Yeah. Otherwise, we'll lose the focus and we won't be able to maintain it.
Absolutely. From what you're saying, then, it's, as a leader, this is not a one-time deal, right? That you're doing it just once and you forget about it.
It is not.
But what you're saying is something that is just going to be ongoing, and people have to trust, right? Because, we always say in the world of business that people do business with people they know, they like, and they can trust. The
Yes.
employee should be able to trust, what the leadership is working on, trust the leadership in itself and what their intention is, and then using intentionality to make sure that the initiatives are there, they are visible across the board. That's really powerful. Now I'm thinking even like, in your business, I can imagine how diverse you are, and,
Yeah.
how you're being intentional about those things. But I'm not going to get into that in this podcast. But thank you so much. I mean, you've shared a lot already. So now I'm thinking then, we don't know when it comes to people that we have in the workplace, we have like different nations, there's a huge representation, right? So then how can you foster a culture where every voice is welcome, is heard, and is represented? What are some examples, some ways that you think that can happen?
Well, I think it's important to create a transparent and honest culture.
Mm-hmm.
Every employee should be treated with respect and
Mm-hmm.
have an opportunity to contribute. You know,
Mm-hmm.
Uh, we have to bring them in. Their opinion, we have to show that their opinion matters to us.
Mm-hmm.
We don't treat them lightly because they are part
Mm-hmm.
of the organization. So I always encourage leaders to do that. And
Mm-hmm.
inclusive workplace accepts and values individual differences. They
Mm-hmm.
have to value that. It has to be seen, we,
Yeah.
like for example, we have I worked with an organization that helps migrants in Hungary, and we have
Mm-hmm.
people from different parts of the world, from Asia, from Middle East, from Africa. So we create the African Day, where
Mm-hmm.
we invite people from other countries to come, and then they share their culture, they share their
Mm-hmm.
food, they interact together, and we do that for Asians as well, for people from Middle East.
Mm-hmm.
So this is how we do it. It's very practical, and when you do it like that, people will feel involved, and they'll open up and share the problems that they have, and then we try
Yeah.
to find solutions to those problems.
Yes, I totally agree with everything that you said. And those are some really great and authentic tips that you've shared, real life, because sometimes some of the examples can feel really abstract, but something that, what you just shared is really real and which I can relate to actually. So thank you so much. And I'm thinking then, um, to make this happen, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's easy.
It's
So what are
not.
some struggles that you think leaders might face while they're doing this, and how can they overcome it?
I think one of the biggest challenges that leaders face when it comes to diversity, equity, and inclusion is that getting everyone on board,
Mm-hmm.
you know, getting the whole leadership team first on board, and
Mm-hmm.
then trying to
Mm-hmm.
sell this idea to your organization, getting them
Mm-hmm.
on board. That's one of the biggest challenge, just getting it started. Because like in Hungary is a small country, but it's
Mm-hmm.
not that diverse. When you talk about
Mm-hmm.
diversity, they are thinking, well, why is it so important? I tell
Mm-hmm.
them that even if you have two, three people from other countries working
Mm-hmm.
in your company, there's need to be inclusive. There's need to make their voices heard.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't matter if they are minority in
Mm-hmm.
your company. And then I think another issue is that lack of ethnic diversity and gender diversity in leadership rank. So that's we don't have enough representation of the minorities that
Mm-hmm.
are in the company. Even when they are qualified to be part of the leadership, they
Mm-hmm.
are not included because they don't speak the same language, they don't have the same color and stuff like that. So these are the
Mm-hmm.
issues that we are facing here in Hungary. But I believe that as we continue to preach the message of diversity, we will
Mm-hmm.
have a breakthrough.
Yes, totally. And I can see that, even though, in your case here in Hungary, those things are relatable even here in the US. And so thank you so much. That's a really interesting topic that we're speaking on. And then I know, like, we don't need to have the podcast longer than it should, and we're wrapping up. But I'd like to ask you if people would like to find you to explore more on this topic, maybe in Hungary, maybe somewhere else, just having a conversation. Where can they find you?
Yeah, they can find me on LinkedIn, and I think
Okay.
I will send my website to you so they can
Okay,
check my
great.
website
Like, I
out.
can put it. Yes. Okay. I can put it on the
Emmanuel
show.
Ecoma, emmanuelecoma.com. So they can find me there. And one more thing I wanted to say quickly is that we have to promote teamwork.
Yes.
Yeah, and make inclusivity a priority, and provide
Mm-hmm.
diversity training.
Mm-hmm.
Training is very important. You have to train the people about it. So the more they
Mm-hmm.
get to know it, the more they will be open to accepting it.
Yes, totally. Thank you so much. So I'm going to share that in the show notes. And if someone wants to reach out to you, they will know how to. That's pretty generous. Thank you. So I would like to talk about this all day, but unfortunately, we've come to the end of the podcast. And so I always wrap up the podcast with a signature question. So if I'm speaking to a leadership expert or a coach or different, depending on the audience, I would change, what the question, how it reflects. So in this case, I would like to ask you then, what does empowerment mean to you as a certified leadership expert?
Well, empowerment means a lot to me, because when you empower people, you're giving them a voice to express
Mm-hmm.
themselves. You're giving them the opportunity to excel. So everything I do evolves around empowering people, getting the
Mm-hmm.
best out of their talent, and making them, do things that they won't really do without somebody who is there to encourage them and make them
Mm-hmm.
feel that they are capable of doing that.
Mm-hmm. That seems simple, but it's very deep. So I really want to say thank you so much. It's like we have to be able to equip people such that then they can go around changing the world of other people. So
Yes.
you said it. Yes, thank you so much, Emmanuel. I want to wish you the best in your personal and professional life. Keep up the great work you're doing, and keep making a difference in the life of others in Hungary and beyond. I know your future is bright. Thank you so much. And so,
Thank
to
you.
our listeners out there, thank you so much for tuning in to this wonderful episode. Be safe, be well, and I'll see you on the next one.